everyone, thank you for tuning in. My name is Phil Healy. I'm the Public Access Coordinator here at NORCAM. And today we have a special guest with us. I have with us Josh Young, for the Director of Legislative Affairs at ABCD. So I manage to get it.
That's me. Good.
And Josh, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. On this conversation about poverty in Massachusetts, but I guess poverty in general,
Sure.
Just how it's handled within the state and in some cases federally. Mm-hmm. So, if you could please, so what does your title mean? And we've had ABCD people on here before,
right?
And they've been great and had some great programming. But what is your area of expertise? What do you do?
Sure. So I actually have two titles.
Okay.
So just to make things a lot more complicated, the first one is a little easier in that I am the Deputy Director of all of our community sites. So we have 14 sites throughout the Boston and Malden, Medford, and Everett area who are on the front line with case managers seeing low-income and working poor clients as they come in the door, and helping them to move up the ladder of self-sufficiency to get themselves out of a poverty situation and into a better economic status. So that's one of my jobs. My other job, which I've come to you today, is I'm the government relations person for ABCD, and so I do both legislative and budget work as well as advocacy work with elected officials who represent our greater Boston area, and try to work with them around poverty issues, both in trying to minimize impacts on poverty as well as to make recommendations for better ways of allowing people to either reduce the costs that they incur to their household income or to increase benefits that might help them get out again of a poverty status and into a better economic status bracket.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I thank you, and I think on behalf of the audience and everyone tuning in, we thank you as well. I imagine it's you have both your, I don't want to say friends and enemies, but you have your possibly, I guess, brief combatants and companions, and you have, because dealing with legislation, you have to shake a lot of hands, but also you just have to constantly talk to people.
Right.
I imagine. So if you could, let's get into what the program that you guys are working on right now.
Sure. So we come to you today because we're very excited to be taking around a report that ABCD and a group in Washington, D.C. called the Coalition on Human Needs, a Washington-based advocacy group on anti-poverty issues. And what we do is every year we publish a report based on information that comes from the United States Census Bureau on how trends in poverty are going. So this year we're happy to report that due to the improving economy, as well as some programs and tax credits, have reduced some of the costs to household incomes of those who live in poverty situations. So as a result, we've seen an uptick or a downtick, if you will, in the poverty, both on the federal level as well as in Massachusetts. So in Massachusetts, for instance, we have gone in 2015. We were at about 11.6%, and in the year before that, we were at 11.7%. So small tick down, but that's been a trend over the last couple of years, and we believe again it's due to some both a combination of the fact that the economy is improving, the Affordable Care Act is covering a lot more people, so they're seeing less of an impact on medical costs to their household budget. And of course, the Affordable Care Act is covering pre-existing conditions, so that families are not having to fight with their insurance agencies on the costs of covering that.
No, that's great, and there's a lot of coverage that doesn't seem to get. And I know that was a big kind of plus for the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
Just that, and a lot of companies, and I actually have a good friend who works in documentary filmmaking who's trying to do a doc similar on insurance companies and just kind of the runaround they give.
Right.
So this is kind of great that the Affordable Care Act is helping in that regard.
Right. I mean, we've gone to in a situation where it's almost down to about a 4.8% nationally. Those folks who were not covered. So
that's astonishing.
It really has been
Yeah.
over the last 5 or 6 years an astonishing rate.
Wow, and you wouldn't happen to know I mean, that is a crazy great number.
Yeah.
Would you happen to know what?
I don't know what the overall
Yeah.
number of numbers of affected folks is, but yeah.
No, that's great. And so back to the kind of trends, the slight downward trend in a good way of the percentage of poverty or poverty-stricken in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Do you see this continuing with maybe with the new administration, it's a little bit of a roadblock, but with all the other factors you consider?
I think so. I mean, with the new administration, it's too early to tell yet, because with Mr. President-elect Trump coming in,
very odd to say, but
I know a lot of his base is from Rust Belt communities as well as rural communities. Folks who fall into both a poverty as well as a low-income, working poor as well as a low middle class status. So a lot of his voting base is from that area. So it'll be interesting to see over the next few months sort of what they roll out for new policy. As your question to do with Congress, these programs that we're talking about have pretty good bipartisan support. So things that ABCD is involved with, like the fuel assistance program or low-income home energy assistance program, has good, solid support on both sides of the aisle, particularly, not surprisingly, in the Northeast and Midwest, which are affected communities. Same thing with the Earned Income Tax Credit program, which benefits folks who are working, and families are benefiting from getting a real substantial amount of money when they receive their taxes that they can apply for paying off, or whether it's arrearages or debts, or whether they use it over the course of the year for buying something that they ordinarily wouldn't be able to afford. In Massachusetts, I do have numbers that we, over the last couple of years, we've assisted 150,000 people per year out of poverty due to the Earned Income Tax Credit program. And for ABCD alone, last year we filed over 5,500 tax forms, applications, and resulting in about a little over $8 million in money that came back, both on the state and federal level.
From incentives?
From incentives, yeah.
Yeah, because you guys, you do that too. You run, if you're under a certain bracket or within both the family income and personal income.
Right.
You actually do their taxes with them.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that for a while, and it's a great way for us to be able to have folks who are working, families who are working, to come into our doors, as you say, if they qualify within within the brackets, and they come into our centers, or one of our 14 community centers around, and they see a case manager. And luckily for us, when the customer comes in, we're able to capture them and not only do their taxes at that point, but also talk to them about their household budget and what kind of obstacles are they seeing within either their household budget or within their economic working situation, or any kind of other drains on their economic status, and being able to help them overcome those obstacles in order to move along, hopefully into a better economic bracket. So we love the Earned Income Tax Credit program, and and actually are pushing both on a national basis to have working couples covered, so expand it to working couples.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Who are not
I haven't
covered
heard of
now.
that.
It's just families who are being covered now.
Yeah.
So
It's like a common law kind of thing, or
well,
not even
either
that?
they're married or
yeah.
not,
Okay.
and that actually in Massachusetts would affect about 300,000 people.
Yeah, all
So that would help us, reach out to a sizable population that we're no longer that we're not serving currently.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we're always pushing at the Massachusetts level is to kick in more state money, so that they get an even bigger benefit when they file their taxes. So a couple of years ago with Governor Baker, we were able to expand the Massachusetts contribution from 17% to 23%. And then last year we made an effort with the governor, although it didn't work out, to move it from 23 to 28%. So we're hoping that next legislative session we'll be able to work on that as well. So again, a good example of bipartisan support for this program. The other one that has a lot of bipartisan support, both on a federal level as well as a state level, although there's no state contribution to it, is the child care tax credit, which also helps move families out of poverty, and they receive that benefit when they file their taxes as well. So, Massachusetts is an expensive place to have child care.
Yeah. And to live in general.
And to live. On average, a family with an infant spends about, without any kind of subsidy, spends about $17,000 a year on child care. Yeah. So that's, not a little bit of money.
Not to sneeze at.
No,
yes.
and so, that's something to definitely take into account. Luckily, Massachusetts is the state is, again, on a bipartisan basis, is very committed towards making state resources available for folks who are low income, who are going through job training programs, or trying to get themselves into school so that they can get a better job, and as a result, we have a pretty sizable, actually long waiting list for folks to get child care benefits out of that.
You can't serve all of them per se, but
it's really a matter of state resources. I mean, even though the state does spend a sizable amount, there's still anywhere from 14 to 18,000 people on a waiting list per year.
wow.
So, it's. We'll come back and talk about that topic some other time.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
It's a complicated weave of ways that we actually could make efficiencies in both the job training program as well as the child care voucher program, in order to kind of close that gap a little bit. But leave it to say that Massachusetts does actually put quite a few dollars towards trying to make vouchers available so that people can go to work or go to school. So.
No, I always have said I grew up in the state. I've lived in California for about a year and a half, but I will say Massachusetts, Mass is a place where you can pretty much, we like our civil rights.
Yeah.
And we do what we can to kind of help each other out in a lot of ways. And I think generally I think a lot of people can be like that, but I think legislatively, it's kind of that way.
Well, we look at it as this is a way for families to make sizable improvements in their economic status so that they're not a further drain to taxpayers. Sure. They're making their own money. They're working out their own household income, and they're hopefully never going to have to fall back into a situation where they have to rely on federal or state public assistance. And so, we see a little bit of money spent for a short amount of time on child care, for instance. A voucher will allow folks to, again, have a better job or a better economic status situation, and they're off on to a situation where they're not going to be relying on state or federal assistance.
Well, also, you can't. You have to stay home, watch your kid if you can't pay for daycare or anything like that, and that affects your job. You might not be able to work.
Sure.
So I mean, it's all that not to use this term we might be using the next couple of years, but trickle down kind of.
Sure, and we've all been in
yeah.
that situation where we're between jobs, or
Yep.
we've lost a job where it makes our partner is off working, so we have to sort of change our
Yeah.
change our situation for the
Yeah.
moment to make sure that our children are taken care of, and so.
It's a tough go. Being a human being is a tough go.
Absolutely.
And automation is not to not to say getting into a whole other bag of bones, but automation is a thing too. Maybe not as affected by this era as much at the moment, but definitely throughout the U.S. and the world. So that's
Right.
another thing that we'll have to kind of, I guess, brace ourselves for. And programs like these will be ever more important.
Right.
And so what else about the study? What was the name of the coalition?
So it's the Coalition on Human Needs and
Yeah.
ABCD. The other thing that we really are very excited about is that the child poverty rate has dropped
Oh, good.
from 15.2% to 14.8%.
Oh, that's
and
substantial, yeah.
so pretty good sizable amount, and it actually was in the 16s the year before that.
Oh.
So we're very excited when we're able to get children into a situation where not having to rely on, not getting a meal, or not being able to go to school, or a steady situation in both an economic status as well as a social status. So ABCD runs the Head Start program. So, which is the preschool program for 3- and 4-year-olds for low-income folks. They not only get schooling, but they also get, a meal every day, and they get access to dental health and to physical health as well as mental health, so that the children are in a situation where they're ready for kindergarten once they leave our doors. So that's been great.
That's substantial.
The child care tax credit program, which we talked about, allows families to make sure that their tax rebates go towards serving children. So that's a great thing. And then, of course, the SNAP food benefits or food stamps,
Which we were talking briefly
which
off
we were
air,
talking
yeah.
about off air, are a sizable way, along with the WIC program, the Women, Infant, and Children program for the very young children, are a way of ensuring that children are properly fed and are getting a meal, and that goes a long way towards reducing the childhood poverty level. We were talking again off air that the SNAP benefits are a great program and a way for, again, spending a little bit of money to make sure that folks aren't on a further economic drain on taxpayers. That ABCD does have food pantries, which see a little bit of a sizable, not a little bit, not a sizable, a little bit of an uptick towards the end of the month when food SNAP benefits run out.
Yeah.
But again, it's a way of making sure that children don't go hungry. A lot of brain development studies are being done now that
regarding nourishment and
really, that kids learn better at early ages. So the more we can do to make sure that they receive the proper nourishment, and that they don't go hungry when they go to school. Make sure that they're learning and that they're gaining all of the skills and tools that they'll need to progress in school at later ages.
Oh, that's good. And with those food pantries, are you working with the Boston Food Bank as well? Or?
We do. We work very closely with the Greater Boston Food
Those guys
Bank.
are great. I love them.
And in Malden, we also work with and Everett. We work with a lot of the programs out there. So it's been a great collaboration over the years.
Yeah, no, I know here in North Reading, our food pantry actually, I believe a lot of food pantries go to the food bank itself.
Yep.
I think is it in Jamaica Plain or Dorchester?
I think it's right in Roxbury.
Oh,
actually.
Roxbury, right on the corner.
Yeah.
of those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went there we actually have a program that runs on here
Okay.
about that journey. They're really great over there. And it's a great resource, and I would, ask anyone here, pretty much, if, and I'll actually, with the website for ABCD, it's abcd.org, correct?
It's abcd.org or actionforbostoncommunitydevelopment.org. And yeah, we always have volunteer opportunities, or we actually are running a winter emergency campaign this year, just to make a plug for another program.
No, definitely, please, yeah.
So we're running a winter emergency campaign where folks can drop off clothing, particularly coats and mittens and hats and that kind of thing, as well as comforters or that kind of thing, to
Mittens,
make sure
gloves,
that,
anything
yeah,
like-
exactly, to make sure that, particularly that our seniors and our children are taken care of this year, so that they're not cold. Particularly in as the winter progresses along, and we'll see where we are as far as how many cold days we're going to get, or how many snow days we're going to get.
As great comedian Bill Burr said, we're in the golden age of global warming,
Right,
or
right.
climate change.
Right.
Because technically, other places will get colder.
Yeah.
So it's not everything's going to get warmer. It's just everything's going to shift a bit. But no, it's true.
And then we have a toy drive program as well, which is
for the season.
going on now that benefits children. But our fuel assistance program is a real staple. We serve over 25,000 clients in Boston and over 5,000 clients in Malden, Medford, and Everett, ensuring that households receive fuel assistance to help them pay for their winter bills. And the great thing about this program, again, to just make a kind of a shill for another program for a moment, is that once customers qualify for fuel assistance, they're also then eligible for two other great programs, one of which is weatherization work, so that if their households are, have some
like
need
window
of
panes or
window
whatever,
panes or doors, or need some insulation, our weatherization program can take care of those families. And then the other thing is they would then qualify for a reduced. The public utility companies have worked out with us that they receive a low-income rate for electricity, so that they receive a reduced rate.
Is that more recent, or is that?
No, it's been going on for a little bit
Yeah.
But those are some of the benefits of applying for the low-income home energy assistance program. So again, if folks are waffling on whether they would qualify or not, I always encourage people to give us a call and see if they might
what is that
be
number
eligible
again?
for the program. So the biggest the way they should call us is 617-348-6000 or 6000, and just ask to speak to our fuel assistance.
And I believe from the people I've had on from ABCD, they've been really great in conveying, give us a call and check out the website. And as I was saying before, not only check out your website, you can donate to your organization and the food pantry in Boston or in your local area, either here in North Reading, which I believe nrfoodpantry.org, I think, is the website. I'll put the proper website here for
Right. Our Boston. So ABCD's website is www.bostonabcd.org.
Yeah.
And so folks should just, if they have access to the computer, definitely look us up or call us at 617-348-6000.
And I believe the Malden office, or I believe there's another office that was around here that can work with people from this area.
Absolutely.
That's just kind of north of Boston.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But folks should just call us at our main information numbers, and we'll get them, introduced to whoever they need to talk to.
No, that's great.
Yeah,
So what, with this study, to go back to it briefly again, are there any other things you noticed besides like Affordable Care Act, just consumer items maybe going down a little bit, and just the economy itself kind of rounding off in a positive sense?
Yep.
Anything else that you saw in the report, or?
Well, we've seen that again with the fuel assistance stuff. We had a milder winter last year, so that helped a lot in in folks' overall economic budget. So we like the trends on where they're going. We do have some recommendations on sort of where we would like to go further.
Yeah, sure.
The biggest of which we really haven't chatted about is, of course, the ever-present situation of housing in Massachusetts.
Yeah, we did briefly, chat about that.
So, for a family of four at a economic, poverty status of $36,000, folks are spending, on average, across Massachusetts, folks are spending over 50% of folks are spending over half of their paycheck on housing.
Yeah.
So not a big surprise to us in Massachusetts.
No, not at all.
Where we have a very hardy seller's market at the moment for real estate, as well as a lack of the building of affordable housing, and that's not only just in Boston and Greater Boston, but statewide. And so that's taken a real toll on families' incomes. So one of the things that we recommend is for the federal government to spend more money on housing subsidies, particularly a Section 8 program, which allows folks to get a housing voucher that they can use to supplement their household income in order to afford the ever-escalating apartment rates in this state. In Everett, I was in Everett the other day. Somebody was telling me that there is not a vacant apartment in the whole city.
Wow.
So that just shows you that folks are finding Everett, which used to be a community where some affordable apartments could be found. Folks are moving over from Medford and Somerville and Boston and so
that gentrification bug, as they say.
It's just a reality. That folks are just finding their affordability in places like Boston and Cambridge and Somerville and Medford. They just can't afford an apartment anymore, and so they're moving over to other towns.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same kind of weird trend that's happening in major cities like it has been in San Francisco, and Los Angeles, and a whole bunch of other bigger cities. I mean, even New York. I mean, even places like Queens are now being they're eating themselves in a kind of weird way. And they're large international. I believe there's a large. This isn't necessarily speculation, but in like the Cambridge Harvard area, I know there's like people just kind of various international buyers just bidding on things, and places are just shutting down because.
Well, I can't talk to Cambridge, but I certainly can talk to Boston. That there are definitely folks who come to school or who are just starting out after school, where whoever in their family is able to buy them a place and paying cash for the condominium or a house. So so that's one thing. And then the other thing that we talked about briefly was the expansion of the Earned Income Tax Credit program, both on a federal level to cover folks who have a partner and not necessarily have children. So that would be a great thing that would add about 300,000 people in Massachusetts who would be suddenly covered by the Earned Income Tax Credit program. So that would be another one. And then the last one is just an increase at the federal level for food stamps or SNAP benefits to cover the whole month, as we were talking about. That folks get a benefit that comes into the monthly, and they try to stretch it as far as they can along the month, but invariably it trickles off. And so by having an increase in the overall food stamp benefit, that would benefit the family as a whole, particularly the children and seniors who are obviously more susceptible to hunger.
Yeah, need that nourishment and need that attention. Yeah, it was very weird because we were talking about it in NPR story, which you said you swore you would listen on the way
Absolutely.
home today. But it was very interesting because they actually talked about either increasing or with the budget they have, even like parsing it out. So maybe not just once a month, but 2 or 3 times a month you get this income. So you can spread it out a little better, even if because sometimes you have it and then you're like, okay, now we can go get this other food, but things still go, and you can only do so much sometimes with it.
No,
so.
you're absolutely right, and I swear I will listen to it.
Right. Too much pressure.
But it's anything we can do to help supplement someone's food benefit, it will make an overall improvement particularly to the children and seniors. So as we were talking about, we work very closely with the Greater Boston Food Bank, who does a super job on their own of advocacy work at the state level, as well as doing private fundraising. And we really rely on them for things like fish and other vegetables, which go a long way to supplementing somebody's SNAP or food stamp benefits. And then we ourselves also do some private fundraising to see if we can add other things like fish or other ways of just making sure that somebody in a low income status or a working family are able to get a diversity of nutrition into their diet.
Well, eating well. It's very expensive to eat well and eat right, and it's tough when you try to tell someone, make do with what you have, but everything's either that expensive, and fish itself, like being on the East Coast and being by the Atlantic,
right.
Even then things are a little cheaper, but even then it's tough.
And again, just to harp on a subject that there's an amazing amount of research now coming out, have been for a little while, on childhood brain development and the importance of having a kid at a very early level being able to have proper nutrition, to having proper heat in the household, so that they can go to school and try, whether it's childcare or Head Start or kindergarten, so that they can gain at an early level the necessary literacy and numeric tools that will only help them in their later grades.
No, it all begins at the bottom, or the base,
right,
as we'll say.
Right.
But yeah, Josh, anything else you'd like to add, or?
No, I just really appreciate you having us. We'd love to come back again next year once we've updated the report again, and hopefully we will again show a progression in the economic data that moves us in the right direction.
I hope so as well. I'll knock on wood for that. And also hope the Affordable Care Act is still intact as well as it can be. But thank you again, Josh. Josh Young from ABCD. And you can check them out at ABCD, abcdboston.org.
BostonABCD.org.
BostonABCD.org. My apologies. And you can contact that number that Josh mentioned earlier. I'll put it right down here so you'll be able to see it. And any other questions, please feel free to let them know. And even you can call us here at NORCAM at 978, oh my God, 664-0501. I never really have to call here because I'm always here.
Right.
So that number again for NORCAM, 978-664-0501. I believe yes it is. I'm sorry. I never have to call here.
Why would you?
No, this is true. Yeah. So thank you again, and we'll check you next time.
Thank you very much.